Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well because today we are talking about music, and today we're back once again for an episode of What's Good. This time with special guest Tim Derling from Tim's Vinyl Confessions. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing really good, Darcy. Thanks for having me on. These are always I always enjoy watching these, and these are a lot of fun to just talk about, stuff that we're into right now.
Exactly. Could be something new, something old, a new piece of music, something music related, maybe something not even music related, just a chance to just to chat about what's going on, what's good. So I will give you the first pick.
So the one album that I've chosen to talk about today is actually as we're filming this, I'm just about a day away from my official review episode, but someone from out your way,
Yeah, yeah,
people may have heard of him. This is the latest album from Bryan Adams.
yeah.
It's called Roll with the Punches. He's released quite a few singles from this already in advance, and but this is quite good. Obviously he's still got his voice, not just on record but live. But I found that this album there's a lot more songs that I've gotten in my head than any of his previous two. So um, it's the usual mix of types of songs. But he's co-writing with Mutt Lange and Jim Vallance and Elliot Kennedy, some usual stable of songwriters. But yeah, there's some really strong stuff on here, and yeah, I'm quite happy with it. And it's actually the first one I bought on vinyl for quite a long time. I usually just get the CD, but I've told this many times. I mean, he's perennially on the road, but go see him because I mean, he's one guy from that started in the early 80s that has every bit of his vocal chops. Obviously, he's taking good care of himself, and yeah. So that's a an album that I kind of is fairly recent for me that I've been listening to a lot. Another thing that's kind of cool, and it's not going to be happening for a while, but a couple of days ago, I got tickets for myself and my son and my daughter to go see a Rush tribute called Infinity Rush. They're going to be playing about 3 hours away from where we are, so it's a drivable distance. It's not the concert's not until May, but the tickets went on sale a couple days ago, so they must figure that it's going to sell out. It's at Casino New Brunswick, which is a fairly good spot. I mean, it's a fairly big spot. I've seen Sebastian Bach there. I've seen Loverboy there. So I'm excited. I've never seen a Rush tribute band, and obviously I'll never. I was lucky enough to see the real thing once in 2004, but certainly my kids never did. But and I've seen classic albums live, which is an outfit that puts on. They play whole albums. I've seen them do 2112, and that was fantastic. But I've never seen an actual show where it's like three guys that are playing the same instruments and trying to really get the visual aspect down. So I'm excited about that because it's seeing how people do live playing this complicated music that there's going to be a bunch of people in the audience that know every note or just going to be like, all right, you gonna nail this part. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, even though that's quite a few months in the future. And I thought I'd talk about a couple of books I've been reading lately.
Sure.
um, this first one's been out for a while, but I've just gotten around to buying it. This is Queen as It Began. And this is authorized. It was written by Jackie Smith and Jim Jenkins. Jackie Smith worked with the Queen fan club for years, the official Queen fan club. Jim Jenkins is like a super fan going back to the 70s. He's known the band for years. The fact of the matter is that Sir Brian May, wrote the foreword. Should tell you that this has the official Queen stamp of approval. And so far, I'm into their earliest days. They haven't actually coalesced yet,
Mhm.
but I'm learning things. I'm what I'm reading so far are expanded versions of little stories that you hear, and I'm finding out where people first come into the Queen picture. Like there's one name that's come up already, a guy named Morgan Fisher, um, who was I believe, the keyboard player for Mott the Hoople. He eventually ended up playing keyboards for Queen live on stage in part of the 80s, but he actually goes back with them farther than I thought. So that kind of thing, and they're one of my favorite bands. So I always enjoy you just get that whole story maybe. And so far it's a very easy read, and that's an important thing too. And the next one is a book that I actually had the author on my channel talking about not long ago, but I can't recommend it enough. It is such a strange story, and it's very, very well presented here. Um, this is called Stealing Deep Purple. It's written by a guy named Steve McLean, who's actually a stand-up comic, but he's also dabbling in writing, and I shouldn't say dabbling. He does it quite well. And I had Steve on, and this for those that don't know, this is about something that happened in 1980. And if anybody is a Deep Purple fan, knows that in 1980 there was no official band touring as Deep Purple. All of the personnel were there was Gillan and there was Rainbow and there was Whitesnake and Glenn Hughes was doing his thing. But Rod Evans, the original lead vocalist, and a bunch of basically unknowns hit the road as Deep Purple, and it lasted 5 or 6 months until it came to a close. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it helps, of course, if you're a Purple fan, but even if you're not, if you just enjoy a good, intriguing read about, I can't believe this lasted as long as it did. I can't recommend this book enough. I had heard about it, and to be honest with you, I thought it was a hoax. I thought it was just one of those stories that people like to tell, but there's an element of truth behind it, even though even within the truth there's a lot of misinformation, shows that were advertised and didn't actually happen, people that claim to see shows but those shows are did not exist. So there's a little bit of footage of it out there but not very much. So it's a fascinating story, and it's a really well done look at the information available.
Those are it's a great start. On the topic of the tribute concerts, I think that's the thing, right? It's one thing to see a tribute of a band that's still active,
Hmm.
still around, but bands like Rush, we've got a Tragically Hip tribute band coming through town in a bit, and I'm considering going to that because we're not going to see Gord again. We're not going to
Yeah.
see even. I think Rush have officially stated they're not going to do anything called Rush anymore. Even if Alex and Getty do something
Yeah.
in the future,
I
it won't be Rush.
I would go see a band that Getty and Alex were in, certainly given the chance.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, we're not gonna, we can't see those three guys ever again. And it's like going to see a Zeppelin tribute, or even a Fleetwood Mac tribute.
Yeah.
There's, I've seen a couple of those. So yeah, I mean, it's one thing to go see, if there's a band that's out there actively touring, but then again,
Mhm.
sometimes those big bands never come where somebody lives, and if a really well done tribute is it's fun, I mean, some people are against it. I'm really not. I mean, these it's done out of, someone that would criticize somebody for going out there and, quote unquote, making money. I mean, we all know touring
Mhm.
bands don't make a lot of money
No.
off of playing someone else's songs. Well, someone could, conceivably say that somebody that, say, writes a book about a band that's not authorized could, well, you're making money off the what? It's not really about that.
Yeah.
It's about spreading the word around about their music. And
Exactly.
so yeah, no, I'm excited about it. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm such a huge Rush fan. This isn't just any band. You've got to have your chops down. So, I mean, these guys are obviously, I've heard of a few Rush tributes. I know there's Why Not. There's Spirit of Rush. I mean, there's a lot of them. I've never actually heard of Infinity Rush before, so
Yeah.
I'll be curious to see what they do. Curious what the set list will be.
Mhm.
And that's another thing when you go see these tribute bands. Sometimes even if it is a band that is still touring, they'll do songs that the actual artist would never think of doing. So, or not, or just wouldn't want to do. So anyway, I'm excited about that.
Totally. And yeah, those are great books. And that Brian Adams album, yeah, I've listened to it a few times just through streaming, and it's very strong,
Yeah,
and you're right on the money with that. Like he's still got his voice. I
yeah.
think he's on tour right now. I believe he just came through town because I think the date for Victoria was sometime in September. So I think that's come and gone. Um, didn't go see it, unfortunately. But yeah, just still a great musician, great performer all around.
Yeah. He's still got Keith Scott on guitar, and I'm not sure who's playing drums with him live. I know Mickey Curry is not on this new album, which I was a little surprised by, but Pat Stewart is, and Pat goes way back with Brian. Like he's played on some of the Reckless tracks, and Yeah, I've seen him a couple of times in concert. He just always delivers. It's not even a case where you have to worry about is he going to be able to hit the notes because Brian was never one of those high singing guys anyway. Therefore, anything that he did 40 odd years ago, he could still do now and he could still sustain the notes and he's just got a lot of stamina and he plays a long show too. So, um, yeah, I would highly recommend anybody thinking about it. If you're on the fence about it, you'll be glad that you went.
All right. As a good first entry. So you brought up Queen, so I'll bring up something I pulled out. These are it's two albums, but it's Greatest Hits and Classic Queen. These are the 1992 releases, so there's no crossover.
Right?
Once Wayne's World came out,
Yep.
band saw
Oh yeah.
resurgence, and with the death of Freddie Mercury,
Yep.
um, so these are the two editions that don't have any crossover with tracks, which is nice. And it's one of those things where Queen, yeah, they're a good greatest hits band, but they're such an album band. Like you do need to listen to their albums. There's they're just such a strong band. So I mean, unfortunately, I'm just rocking out those greatest hits right now, but that's just kind of what I pulled out. Um, but when you listen to it, you're like, man, I do need to get, that new edition of whatever the recent remaster is, or they've been doing great work now, kind of putting out these deluxe editions with live albums as well
Yeah. Oh
from
yeah.
all over their career. So I've been listening to these lately, but it just makes me think I need more. I need more Queen. I think
Yeah.
sometimes they get overlooked, but they're just a great band. Yeah.
Well, see, yeah, there are so many songs that are sort of radio staples that maybe people are a little tired of hearing, but they've got the album tracks. Go get Jazz, go get the works, get A Night at the Opera, Sheer Heart Attack. They're just so good. Man, I remember that time well when those came out. That's right when I got into Queen, especially the classic Queen. That was the first one to come out. It was either I bought that or the Wayne's World soundtrack. And I wasn't really a soundtrack guy. And I thought, I think I want to get into this band. Looking at the back of it, I mean, I just kind of grew up watching much music. I didn't really know a lot of Queen stuff, but I'm like, oh, this has I Want It All. I like that song. This has One Vision. I like that song. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the bait, and I just got completely hooked. And now that classic Queen sold ridiculously well. Like it was number one album here in Canada. I think it went like 5 times platinum, went double platinum in the States. It really did the trick for them. But it's actually the North American version of what came out in the UK as Greatest Hits Volume 2, because they had so many more songs that were big hits in the UK, but they couldn't really call it that. So then yeah, then when they put the greatest hits out a few months later with the Burgundy cover, that's all the songs that weren't on the classic Queen. But when I think of Queen's greatest hits, I think of the black background with the portrait of the band.
And
So
yeah.
it does get confusing, but yeah, man, that does that ever take me back? Because I could just remember, for like the whole summer, that's all I was listening to was Queen and trying to buy as many of those albums as possible. So yeah, great
Yeah.
memories there. And yeah, they are such a great, great band.
Yeah. The next, this was on one of my kind of recent Finds episodes, but I've been listening to this a lot. I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. Not that I didn't think I'd like it. This is AC/DC Live. This is the single disc
Yeah, yeah.
edition. Uh, I'd like to think I'm an okay AC/DC fan, but I'm definitely a casual fan. I've got a couple albums and I picked this up. And again, I think listening to this, do I need to listen to more AC/DC? Maybe I do because I've just been enjoying this. It puts you in a good mood. It feels like a really tight set list. I know there is the expanded edition, um, but it's just so strong to me. I'm listening to this and just enjoying every track on here. I think it's paced really well. Just everything about this I'm enjoying. And again, similar to you and Queen, maybe this is a new band I need to get more into. I need to get, those deep cut albums even. Um, just really enjoying this one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because very, very similar to what we were just talking about.
Mhm.
I actually didn't own anything by AC/DC until, believe it or not, 1997, which is pretty late. But what changed it for me is seeing an AC/DC tribute band live.
Yeah.
And I think they were called Livewire. And it was really good. And I realized, I'm like, I know every one of these songs, most of them, not all of
Yeah.
them, and I like everything I'm hearing, maybe I need to get into AC/DC. So sometimes it
Mhm.
does take something like that. Yeah, I've only got the double versions of all of the that live album, but I mean that they were firing in all cylinders. It was a good lineup. I mean, nothing against Phil Rudd, but Chris Slade was an excellent drummer. I mean, that was the Razor's Edge tour, so this the yeah, they were really firing on all cylinders. I think that a lot of that album was recorded in Vancouver, actually, or not recorded, but
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of the live tracks came from
Um,
Vancouver. I know it wasn't
mhm.
just one show, and then of course
Yeah,
the late great Bruce Fairbairn produced it. But yeah, no, that's good.
yeah, that's a good one. I'll do one more before passing it back. This is a great album from 1984. Uh, we're coming into the fall a little bit, maybe into winters, where I don't know about you, but I find that the genres I stick to kind of are seasonal. So for me, going into winter and the fall, we start there. We're going to get into some metal. So we're going to go for Dio's The Last in Line, the second album from the solo act. And again, Dio, it's just a fairly consistent catalog. I think the last kind of handful of albums starting in the 90s do waver, but I'm just a fan of pretty much all of the solo Dio work, at least the first handful of five or so albums. I think Holy Diver gets played a lot, but to me, The Last in Line is right up there as well. I don't know if it's quite as strong, but you still have Vivian Campbell on guitar. You still have the band firing on all cylinders. And just going through the track list, We Rock, Last in Line, I Speed at Night, Evil Eyes, which might be my favorite on the album, and then Eat Your Heart Out as well is a really strong track. Yeah, second album from the solo Dio, Last in Line. Great album, I think.
Yeah, I mean, what a lineup
Yeah.
with and Vivian was I think 21. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he was a prodigy for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've seen him a couple times in Def Leppard, so
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah. Um yeah, I haven't really got anything else out, but I do want to talk
Sure.
about some things that I'm looking forward to getting, and it's
Of
something I've been
course.
hearing bits of is the reissued Buckingham Nicks album
Yeah.
because it's one of the most like I can't it's finally getting an official reissue because it's probably the most requested album by a
Mhm.
major artist that people are like, why hasn't this come out? So apparently whatever rights issues there may have been were sorted out and it's out there in multiple formats and it's basically a dry run for the self-titled album from 75. I mean, yeah, you don't have Mick Fleetwood and John McVie and or Christine, but you could hear so much of what Lindsey and Stevie would bring to Fleetwood Mac. There are guitar parts that sound like, okay, I think he took this and turned it into that. Obviously, it has that history because it's got the song Frozen Love on it, which, as the story goes, it's rock and roll history now, but that's the song that Keith Olsen played for Mick Fleetwood when he was looking for a studio, not even when he was looking for band members. But I don't know. I think Bob Welsh had left at this point in the group's history, and uh, he said, "Well, who's that guitar player?" Basically that and that whole thing happened. So I actually ordered it directly from Warner Music Canada, which I haven't done before, but I think it's a little bit later coming than I would have hoped. I also ordered, and I'm waiting on this too, that Led Zeppelin EP that came out, the five
Live
song
EP.
EP
Yeah.
from the Physical Graffiti tour. I know it's just five live songs, but I never thought I'd be ordering anything new from Led Zeppelin at this point. And by the same token, I'm also looking forward to getting and hearing Robert Plant's latest album.
Yeah.
And I have to thank my wife Sarah because she's the one that got me into his solo stuff because I really wasn't into his solo stuff because it's so eclectic, but I've really gained an appreciation for all of it, even though it's all over the place stylistically. I really liked Carry Fire and what's it called? Lullaby and the Ceaseless Roar. So with Robert Plant on vocals, it's kind of like it doesn't really matter what music he's doing. With the familiar voice, it's like it's okay to listen to this. Give it
Exactly.
a shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, so those are some upcoming things. I just found out that one of my favorite bands from the from this century, The Darkness, is reissuing a deluxe version of their second album, One Way Ticket to Hell and Back. which I figured they would because a couple years ago they did the same thing with their debut album, Permission to Land. But that's a band that they have a ton of B-sides, so it'll be nice to have all of those B-sides from that era in one place. So those are just some upcoming things that I'm awaiting.
Yeah, and that's great, that Led Zeppelin EP. It makes me think, and some reviewers have mentioned this, that what else do they have, in the vault?
It's quite something because for years, for live stuff, all that we had was The Song Remains the Same. And we all know that's not Led Zeppelin at their best. That was recorded at the end of a very long tour. They were exhausted and whatever else. But that's all you ever heard about until that they put out that DVD, just the self-titled DVD with all of those great concerts. Like it's got the Nebworth show from '79, which I like because I really like In Through the Outdoor.
Yeah,
But it's got the Earl's Court show from '75. So yeah, and then they put out How the West Was Won. So yeah, there's more stuff to come, and I'm glad that they put this EP out because among other things, it gives us a little taste, but it's affordable. You know,
exactly.
I expect that someday they'll put the entire show out, but it'll be a 2 CD, 4 LP
Yeah,
plus set, and it'll be hundreds of dollars. So
yeah,
just give us a little taste, and we don't break the bank.
exactly. Yeah. And I think some bands have been better at this, putting out, we were seeing a lot more reissues, deluxe editions, things like that.
Yeah,
Having a variety, because some fans, they don't need to rebuy that album for the, fifth time. But if
yeah,
you can have a release of just something new, just what's
yeah,
new, and I know like the Alan Parsons Project, they've been kind of reissuing a lot of their material. You can get just the standalone CD or the deluxe edition with all the bells and whistles, but there's no, just the bells and whistles.
yeah. And that's something that I wish that more bands would see. If they're putting these things out for the diehards already have,
Yeah.
the studio tracks or the studio album. I'll give you another example, and it's one of my favorite unsung bands, and a Canadian band, Coney Hatch. They're reissuing their debut album, but it's coming with a live album from. It's gone right out of my head, but there's a concert from '82 or '83 they've stuck
Mhm.
on it, and I'm like, I've already bought that CD 3 times,
Yeah.
but I guess I'll have to buy it again. I wish they put the live album out by itself.
Mhm.
That's why I'm glad that Van Halen did that when they put out the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge Deluxe Edition. They eventually did put out that Live in Dallas concert by itself, which is really unique because it was the one they it was a free show. They did it in the middle of the city on the back of a flatbed, and it was crazy. They put it out on audio and video. So yeah, I mean there is a market for these things. Queen were, like you said, Queen were doing it really well. They did Live at the Rainbow, which was incredible. They did A Night at the Odeon. Then they put out all the BBC sessions called On Air. I was hoping we were going to see. I'd buy a new Queen concert
Mhm.
album every year.
Yeah.
Tours that have not really been well documented. I would love that. I mean, yeah, give us something from the Works tour that we've never seen or
Mhm.
seen or heard before. So yeah, I mean, there's a market for that. It doesn't have to be brand new songs that we've never heard before. There's stuff out there. Like Van Halen's a really good example of that. I mean, that camp is so reluctant to put anything out. It's like pulling teeth, but there's stuff there, and we want to hear it, warts and all.
Yeah. Even, I mean, eras, there's, yes, for one of my favorite bands, I don't need any more live shows from that classic period with the same set list, the
There's been an
fragile.
awful lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, put something out from the drama tour.
I would love that drama or, talk, things like that.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
love
I
that.
mean, there's footage out there, and there's some good quality footage out there. So
Mhm.
that's what people. It's like with Kiss, it's like I don't need another reissue of Kiss Alive. I want to hear something from, that's one thing I was happy about earlier this year that they'd put out a soundboard from the Asylum tour, which for years we always heard there was no recordings from it. Well, obviously there are. I want to
Yeah.
hear it. Yeah, okay, they play the songs at 100 miles an hour and Paul Stanley stage raps are ridiculous. I still want to
Mhm.
hear it.
Exactly. Because it's for the fans, right?
It's
Yeah,
a moment in this band's history. It's like that Deep Purple thing. It's like, okay, yeah, you could say it was kind of a weird period, but I want to know more about it.
exactly. I've got one more thing that I pulled out, and then I'll pass it back to you, and then we can maybe promote some things that you're working on or have recently worked on as well. Oh, it's right here. Found this thrifting. I'm unfortunate enough to work next to a thrift store. So during my lunch breaks, I go. Zoom is doing this thing where it zooms in automatically. Great.
Ah,
Some new feature. I don't know if I like it. This is the first solo album from Graham Nash, Songs for Beginners. There we go. Came out 71. So they had just put out Deja Vu with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
yeah.
And then they'd all done their solo albums for this one. It's for me, fall is like a folk music time. Jazz and folk is kind of what I listen to for the most part in the fall. And it's got that kind of Laurel Canyon, hippy dippy, but there's a bit of darkness to it as well. As an album, it's okay. Like it delivers what you think that description would sound like. I don't think it's one of the stronger of all those solo albums that came out around that time. But it is enjoyable, and it's kind of nice to fill out that family tree, that collection as you go. Because, I mean, there's so many offshoots. You can go from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young to, all their solo work and then the artists they work with. So it's kind of nice to build that out. Kind of fun to be a fan, I guess, as it were. So happy to.
Well, then they've done albums where it's just two of them, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Crosby and Stills, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Yeah.
Or Crosby and Nash, Stills
Something like that.
Young.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's been a fun one. Pick that up, give it a listen. I paid $2 for it. Happy that I paid $2 for it. But great to add next to all the other albums down there as well. Yeah, but I'm gonna pass it back to you to talk about, I know you've got a lot of stuff on the go that you're working on or have recently put out. So if you'd like to talk about that a bit.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually in the process. I'm really hoping that within the next month or so I'll have
Mhm.
another book on the market. It's very close. It's just it's in the design stage now. I'm not really ready to tell you what it is, and as you know, I'm also working on I'm working on there's three books that I've
Oh
got
wow.
in various states of completeness, but there's
Mhm.
one that's closer than the others. And yeah, I'm still promoting my Night Ranger book, and I'm kind of promoting all of them all at once,
Mhm.
my entire, I guess repertoire, if you want to call it that. But yeah,
Yeah.
Sammy Hagar, Kansas, Y&T, and my Unspooled book. And keep putting out new episodes, trying to get some different co-hosts because people have actually reached out to me, which is a huge compliment. Somebody wants to be on the channel, and trying to accommodate everyone. If I sometimes if it's like, well, I haven't been on yet, it's like, well, sometimes you got to remind me. But anyway,
Mhm.
but yeah, continuing to do those. Yeah, just trying to keep busy. Always on the hunt for music. I mean, I'm less than a week away, like you said, working next to a thrift store. I'm less than a week away now from the fall Record Expo in Riverview, which is something that a lot of us like to go make a pilgrimage. Those of us that don't already live down there, and yeah, because Jex lives down there, so we always meet up with him. And and I find that maybe it's because I'm getting older and more of a sop, but I find that it's still about finding music and there's still that thrill about finding something, but it's also about the social, about the hanging out, which is fun. So really looking forward to that, getting down there. And that, of course, I'll be documenting that as we go. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's, just keeping the boat above the water. I just wanted to ask one
Mhm.
thing about that Graham Nash album. Were there
Yeah.
any hits off of that album or any like,
I think the hits were Military Madness was one, and then Chicago was the other
oh,
hit,
okay.
from what I could tell when I looked it up briefly. Those were the two hits. What else is on here, though? Better Days, Wounded Bird, I Used to Be a King, Be Yourself, Simple Man, and Man in the Mirror. There's only one Sleep Song, and then Chicago and We Can Change the World. Pretty sure
Okay.
Military Madness and Chicago were the two hits.
I wonder if there's a reissue label called Wounded Bird Records. I wonder if they named themselves
Oh,
after that song. It wouldn't
yeah.
surprise me.
Yeah, it could be. I never thought of that. I'll have some research to do now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing. Well, with that, I want to thank you for joining us to talk about what's good. Because I mean that's just kind of the fun of talking about music. Like you said, just socializing, talking about things we're into, even if it's something that we're not all sharing the same love of an artist, but we're all sharing the same love of music, which is
You can
great.
appreciate someone's enthusiasm for something, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. So thank you once again for joining me, and I'll catch everyone next time.